Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 368.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you're here today because you and I both know something that we don't like to admit. You're like, what's that, Jay? Well, it's simple. It's just that whether you have too little or too much, you still can have a money problem. You're like, oh, got it. Yes, I am very familiar, Jay, with the too little money problem, but what do you mean too much money problem? You think that actually exists? Yes, I actually believe that exists. In fact, I have one specialist with me today who says that money stress can eat you alive, and I tend to agree, and you can be stressed regardless of the amount. What it comes down to is that you need systems, you need structure to help you become enabled to make more powerful choices. Some of you out there, I know right now, You probably feel like your spending is out of control. You feel like you're just not aware of where's the money going. You're like, there's too much month and not enough money. And many of you, this is why you listen to the Cashflow Diary podcast. You feel like you're under earning. Well, I have with me today someone who's going to help you, me, all of us with that very thing so that you no longer have to suffer alone. Here's the point. Take out a notepad. Take out an iPad. Take something out so that you have the ability to take some copious notes, because I think you're going to learn how to have a better relationship, not only with yourself, but also with money, as we talk to Morgan Garon. Morgan, you there?
I am, Jay. Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Happy indeed. Now, you're dialing in from someplace cold, aren't you?
I am. Yep. I'm in Colorado. It's actually kind of sunny out today, but not quite like a sunny California day that I used to be used to and where I know you are.
Yes, that's where I love it. You can definitely keep the cold. Now, this being your first time here, I have to ask you the same question I tend to ask everybody else. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. So, you've got Black Widow, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man, etc. Superheroes. And I think entrepreneurs and superheroes have a ton of things in common. Chief among them, occasionally, even if only in our own minds, we are flying around and saving our customers one at a time. However, also like a superhero, an entrepreneur has a beginning. I mean, if you think about Spider-Man, for example, there was a time where he was just a college student taking photos for the paper. And then something happened to him. He gets bit by a spider and he has to choose, hey, I have this superhero ability. Am I going to use it for good or evil? And go out there and become a force for good is what he eventually chooses. And yay, we know him as Spider-Man. So my question to you is as follows. Before your current incarnation of yourself, if you will, going around and helping people understand their relationship with their money, helping them become individuals who could be more financially literate, if you will, or using money in a meaningful way. What we want to know is, before the certified financial counselor you are today, who is Morgan Garon?
All right. Good question. To be honest, it's one that I am constantly asking myself and one that kind of continues to evolve. So let me share with you what I know so far. Who I am currently is the possibility of fun and excitement and power around your money. Now, how I got to that, yeah, humble beginnings. I guess if I had to pick a superpower, I guess it would be empathy.
All right. I like that.
Yeah. And the reason I say that is because I really seek to understand. In the setup that I have with clients, I really try to provide just a safe, neutral environment where I really understand what's going on. And I think that comes just from just a gauntlet of different positions and different jobs and different experiences that I've had over time. I was raised in a family business. My parents owned a retail business, and I didn't go to daycare. I didn't go, to preschool even. Once I started kindergarten and was out of the house for school, that was a different story. But I really grew up just watching the internal operations of a business that really was out to take care of customers. It was a customer service approach that I've carried with me my entire life. And that's through, 15 years in the hospitality business, 10 years in financial management, 2 years out on my own now in my own business. So really just humble beginnings, like you said. I mean, superpowers aside, it was just kind of coming up, learning how to take care of people and really trying to get in touch and realize that I just had this intuition with people where I really felt like this was a space I could make a difference.
Make a difference. I like that. That's good. That's good. Now, you mentioned that the family business was retail and you grew up, seeing it from we'll call it the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, the underbelly.
Exactly. You're like, ooh, I don't know if I want that.
No, it was good. There's definitely the ins and outs that I guess you could call the dark side a little bit. Yeah.
No doubt. But my question is, being able to grow up in that environment where I guess I will say that mistakes are allowed. I mean, it's an environment where if you're around entrepreneurs, we don't get it right the first time and we don't get it right without help. And if you're watching your parents, grow through that process, that's got to give you some sort of sense of freedom or some foundation that makes it okay to do something that was non-traditional. So I'm curious, what role do you think, if any, that has played inside of who you are today?
Oh my gosh, a huge role. Absolutely. In good ways and in bad, I think. Growing up in that environment and really watching firsthand, it just shaped me in so many ways. So yes, I was able to really see that there is this huge figuring out that goes on behind the scenes, and that sometimes at face value, if you're on the outside looking in, it may look like everything's just a well-oiled machine, or I guess on the flip side of that, it may not. It may look like a mess. But I just knew that there was this phase where things have to get done. You don't always know what that is or what it even looks like, and you just kind of put your nose to the grindstone and figure it out. So I think that definitely gave me a foot in the right direction to know that it's okay. It's okay not to know everything. It's okay to have to figure it out. It's okay to mess it up. I think in like a regular corporate position or something, there's so much pressure to get everything right the first time and to not have these mistakes where, your neck is on the line or something. And I'm glad that I had that in my back pocket. But when I was working in more of a corporate position, it was tough. It was tough because I felt like it was a little bit, I don't want to say unrealistic, but there were definitely expectations there that, that performance, you just don't have the same wiggle room when you're out on your own. And you kind of mess something up, really, you just hold yourself accountable and you figure out how to do it better,
Yes, indeed. I know a lot about that.
Yeah, it's just part of the process, and I don't think a lot of people necessarily know that unless you're in it and you're in the trenches and, if you get it, you get it. But, for people who don't realize that, I think it's an important piece that, maybe other people need to know that, yeah, I mean, there's just a period where you got to figure it out.
Well, and that's why I asked the question, because there's a number of entrepreneurs that we've talked to now over the years, and there's always this phase, but it's not common knowledge that, like you said, it's okay not to know. Most people are operating as if it's not okay, because they're like, the buck stops with me, and if I don't know, then I can't do anything. Because I don't know, and they never get started. Now, my next question is, it's kind of interesting, because you go from the family idea of growing up in that industry, and then you mentioned a small stint in hospitality.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So not a small stint. So I started working at a very, very early age. I mean, I worked in the family business.
You had no choice. You were born.
Yeah,
like, cool.
I
Look,
was
customer
born
service
working.
agent. Right.
Yeah, we have like pictures of me standing on a stool trying to work the register because I couldn't see over the counter. And
Nice.
so, I mean, it goes all the way back. But even outside of that, once I got a little bit older, I didn't necessarily want to work inside the store in the business with my parents. And once I got a little older, I kind of started looking for other jobs, after school jobs. This is going back a while because I don't even think this is legal anymore, but I was working by the time I was about 13 or so.
Of course.
Yeah, so it's a little different time, a little different place. But I started working in restaurants, bussing tables, hostessing, washing dishes. I mean, honestly, I've pretty much held every position in a restaurant that there is. I spent 15 years in restaurants. And I really attribute the customer service skills that I developed during that time. That's what kind of, I think, launched me to the next level. And it was just a huge stepping stone. I think there's things that you learn inside of a restaurant, the good, the bad, the ugly. But there's things you learn in there that translate and parlay into so many other opportunities that I just don't know if I would have, I think, catapulted the way that I did without that background.
Well, I will say this. You won't like me when I'm hungry. So that's all I'm going to say. And if you stayed there for 15 years, then that says a lot about you for sure.
It happens. When people are hungry, talk about the dark side, right?
Right. Not pretty.
But I understand. Again, empathy.
Yeah, I get that. But I don't know. My patience is just too short at that moment. But I get it. So take us through this journey. How do we go from restaurants to financial counselor, and what are those skill sets that you see that have transferred and helped and supported you now doing what it is that you do?
Okay, good question. So, directly translated, and when I say that, I was hired pretty much directly out of the restaurant by a financial advisor who was looking for an assistant who could really take care of his clients. So this is, there's just pages and pages to this story, but the gist of it is I had reached out. I was interested in financial in a financial career, and was doing some legwork and kind of trying to make some contacts. And through a person that I spoke to, I was then contacted by a financial advisor. When I sat down with this gentleman, he pretty much said, "Hey, look, I can teach you the business. I can teach you wealth management. I can teach you all of that. What I can't teach you is how to take care of a customer, how to take care of a client. Those are things that are really hard to teach somebody. Not that they can't be learned, but given the fact that I had that background, given the fact that I had put that much time into it, and really just kind of was just it was so ingrained in me that was what he was looking for. So, I got hired into a very, very successful career in financial services from the restaurant based on my customer service background. Well, so that's what I mean. I don't know that I would have ever been able to walk through that door without having those years inside the restaurant.
Well, this is good. This is what I like, because there's a number of entrepreneurs listening right now, or would-be entrepreneurs going, I know nothing about, real estate. I know nothing about financial. I know nothing about the business that I actually want to go into, but yet you've tapped into something that I think is paramount for all of us, is your business, regardless of industry, is ultimately about the person on the other end. And if you have the skill set to be able to take care of them, you probably know more than you think. And more importantly, can actually get started because you can learn the technical stuff. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'm living, breathing proof. I've always had a certain fascination with money. So there was a natural curiosity for me in the industry. And that was something that I was actively trying to get involved in, and I was actively pursuing it. So there was a natural inclination for me in that industry. But yeah, I mean, if I'm just going to be honest and call it how it is, I didn't know anything about the internal workings of a wealth management firm, so
Right.
it was definitely a matter of, like we were just saying, a matter of jump in and figure it out. And maybe because I had that background at a really early age of watching my parents figure it out and kind of flounder through some stuff, I was okay doing that. I mean, it was scary. It was big. It was a really big step for me. But I was like, well, hey, here we go. What else am I going to do? Work in restaurants forever? I knew I didn't want to do that. So the door opened and I heaved myself through it, and I've never looked back.
Yes, I get that 100%. I can only imagine what that's like. In fact, we probably scared a few people. They're like, oh my God, she did what? I could never do that.
Right? Well,
it is
you
what
got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I get it. Now, you mentioned this fascination with money, and I think there's a number of people who are fascinated by it that are definitely listening, but they don't make it their business. So my question to you is, with every entrepreneur, there's always this moment. There's this, what I call that superhero moment. It's the moment that you realize, ooh, I have something unique here that I can do, and I can help people, and this is my thing. And you did two very important things. One, you recognized that you had something. And then two, you did the other thing that many people struggle with, is you said, not only do I have this special something, but I'm going to leave what is familiar, what is perceived as stable behind, and go in the direction that I feel like I am being called. So one, how did you discover that superhero ability? And two, where did the courage come from to actually go do it on your own?
Oh, wow. Okay. Gosh. Yeah. So discovering it, I mean, that just really unfolded over time. I don't know that there was necessarily like this one defining moment. I think it was just a series of events. So, working, so I got hired in, right? I was an assistant for this financial advisor and spent a good part of a decade in wealth management, working with some very high net worth individuals and really learning the ropes from the inside out, and just growing in my own position. And was loving it, excelling. I did very, very well. I had a great career. In fact, some people to this day are like, you're crazy. How did you ever walk away from it? But I think over the course of time, it just kind of unfolded for me. I was very satisfied. And then there came a point where I really felt like there was something else. I didn't know what that something else was. I didn't even know really where to begin with it. And so it just kind of started to unfold in little different things that would come up. So I was working with some very high net worth individuals, excellent clients, a lot of business owners, people who worked really, really hard to have what they had. And I had a lot of admiration and respect for that. And I got it, again, because I watched my parents build a business. So I know what those people put into it. It was blood, sweat, and tears.
Yep.
But
not necessarily in that order, but yes.
Exactly. Or probably all at once, even sometimes. But there was also this cross section of the population that I was working with who earned a lot of money and still struggled because for various reasons, and sometimes it was their relationship to money, how they thought about money, how they interacted with it, the way they chose to spend it, whatever. And I saw lifestyle inflation, where these people, the more they made, the more their lifestyle went up, and it cost them more and more. And I could just see this same vicious cycle that people on the lower end of the spectrum who are struggling to make ends meet, it was happening across the board. I don't care if it was low income, middle income, or these high income earners. I was seeing these similar patterns across the board. And it just came out of working with people, working with money, working with numbers, and my love for the people that I was working with, that I started to notice a lot of the behavior behind the numbers. So it was something that kind of revealed itself to me over time. And then it got to a point where I needed to relocate. So I was in Southern California, as you know, relocating back to kind of a rural area in Colorado here, to be closer to my parents, who I want to be able to spend more time with and be closer to home. So I knew that I was going to have to transition. So I started looking around, started trying to put my feelers out there. And the idea for the business really developed, honestly, out of necessity, because I was moving to an area that I knew I might have difficulty replacing my income in, or even a comparable income. So I started to really kind of tune into, what am I going to do? What would I like to do? And in the back of my mind, I always wanted to work for myself. I knew that at some point or another, I was going to have to make the leap. I just didn't know when or what that was going to look like. And so over the course of this, time that this was all unfolding, I really just started to tune in to what's going on with people and their money. And I got the idea to really just start to nurture people and help them. And help them in a unique way that I don't think a lot of people even know is out there, and just be really hands-on with their money. So I just started putting it out there, started getting some feedback. And before I know it, I said, okay, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. This is going to allow me to relocate, replace my income, be in this area that is a little bit more remote than I'm used to, and kind of meet all of these needs of being closer back to my family, being able to be there, spend time with them, take care of them, do what I needed to do in that regard, still earn a good living, and really do something that actually mattered and made a difference. Because at the end of the day, I knew I needed to do something that made my little corner of the world a better place.
Yeah, I get that 100%. I do. And what I like about what you said is, and I hope everyone else heard it, is what led wasn't, okay, what product can I sell to make the most money, or what can I do to make the most money? You led with, what would I like to do? And I wish more people would start with that, because that would be very, very helpful. Now, you mentioned something. This is what we must dig into, because you said regardless of the amount of money that was earned, there were similar patterns and there was similar behavior behind the money. I'm going to take a stab and say that someone listening is probably guilty of these patterns and behavior, but doesn't know it. So now is your shot to set us free. Bring us into that awareness stage of, hey, if you are doing these things, you know how Jeff Foxworthy says, hey, you might be a redneck if...
Right.
Okay, so what I'm looking for here is, these are the things that you saw that are the red and yellow lights of, I might be in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it always looks a little different for everyone, but generally speaking, it shows up in a couple of different ways. So, one, are you stressed out about money? Is it something that is always on your mind? Because I don't care, again, it doesn't necessarily matter how much you make. Is it something that you obsess about? Whether there's not enough, whether there's too much debt, whether there's just something underneath it where you're just not sure. So I work with a lot of people, and I get this from women a lot, and they say, hey, I'm fine. I make good money. I'm making six figures. Some of them, I'm making six figures, even if it's not that much. They're comfortable in their day to day, and they say, I'm good. I'm fine, but I don't know if I'm going to be okay in the future. So I think a misconception is that, people think, oh, okay, you're struggling, right? You're drowning. Yeah, I deal with that. I definitely deal with that. And that could be a red flag right there. If you're in that boat, though, you're in trouble, and you're probably actively trying to figure out what to do about it. So yes, I can help those people, and I often do. Like if things just don't add up and you can't make ends meet, again, it's not necessarily an amount that's attached to that. It's the behavior. If you're spending more than you're making, I don't care how much you're making, it's not going to work out. So there's that group, and that's a little more obvious. But for those who are listening who kind of fall into the, I'm okay though. Like it's not uncomfortable enough to actually do something about it. I gotta say, are you okay though? And that's really what I ask people. Are you okay? And then they say, well, I don't know. I get to do what I want to do and I can pay the bills. That's no problem. But, if I lost my job, it wouldn't be good. I'd really be in trouble because I just don't have that savings account, that cushion, that safety net. I don't have that. How do you do that? So there's things like that I can start to notice just in listening to people speak, because it's not about like, what do you have? Where do you go on vacation? It's not about that. It's about, how do you feel? Do you feel secure? Do you feel safe? Do you feel confident about your money? Do you know where your money is going? Like where it's really going, actually going, not just where you think it's going? Because I know that that's a big surprise for a lot of people. When we start actively tracking spending, people are like, oh my gosh, I had no idea I was spending that much on groceries or going out or traveling or whatever your thing is, and so I think that's often a surprise. So I always start with that, like, do you feel confident? If you're confident, great. But even at that point, kind of look beneath it and make sure, just confirm.
I'm confident that Starbucks gets a significant portion of money from me every month.
Okay, there you go.
I am really confident of that.
So that's one of those things where it's like, okay, so you're spending there. It's your thing. That's cool. I get it. I'm never out to change somebody's way of doing things. What I do, though, is put a mirror in front of them, reflect back to them what's really going on. And sometimes at the end of the day, when they see that number and they say, oh man, okay, I knew I spent a lot at Starbucks, but I didn't know it was $200 a month. Like, I don't really love it that much, and honestly, I've even seen lots more than that. But it can be an area to look to where it's like, okay, if you're into it and you're cool with spending that much money every month at a place like that, cool, keep doing it. But once people start to see the numbers and see them like in a full capacity on a monthly basis or even an annual basis, sometimes their priorities just shift and their habits just naturally evolve. And it's not even about cutting out, right? We've all heard about the latte factor and quit cutting, quit going to Starbucks, quit throwing away your $5 or whatever. Well, if it's your thing, it's your thing. And if it makes you happy, maybe there's another area you can cut back in. But a lot of times it's not about cutting back. Once you see the numbers, it's just like, poof, okay, you know what? I'm all set. I don't want to spend my money there. I'd rather save it or, pay down my debt or take a really meaningful vacation with my kids that I haven't been able to do in 3 years or whatever,
Yeah. I'm getting it. Now, you speak often about those that feel like they might be under earning. Let's pretend that someone is listening and they know where their money's going. They're in control of those things, but there's still this angst or unrest around the amount of money that's actually arriving. I mean, they're making ends meet, but yet it doesn't it feels like either they're capable of more, they should be getting more, maybe they feel like they've contributed more to their education and skills. It's just worth more, but yet it's the same. What say you to that person? Now, the term under-earning, I don't think is new to you, but if it is, let me ask it a different way. Have you ever felt like that you're not receiving in compensation as much as your skills are worth? Sometimes we make that decision intentionally, but hopefully we're being compensated in other ways. So let's also think about those alternative forms of compensation, be that flexible time, be that all kinds of things like those benefit packages, and as well as additional training and education. Speaking of training and education, just understand this. That's really the core basis behind you being able to build more and more cash flow is obtaining more training, more education to expand your skill set to include just learning how to run teams. That could be the very skill set that you are focused on right now. You have a whole lot in front of you to learn, as do we all. So let's get back to it.
Yeah. Okay, good. So to that type of an individual, it's the same sort of thing. So it's that same mirror. And once we start to gather up the numbers, so I'm really, really big in tracking your spending. And I know that probably half of the audience just rolled their eyes and are like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But I'm serious.
They're gone. I heard a collective groan like.
I did too. Don't worry. I think I felt it. So I think though, I mean, you want to talk about passion. I am passionate about tracking your spending, even as tedious as that sounds, because the information you start to get back from that. So whether it's the Starbucks, I almost said Starbucks fetish, so let's call it what it is.
Oh, trust me, they're tracking. They are
totally,
tracking. They have tracked my spending very well.
Yeah. So, whether it's something like that or whether you are in that group of, actually I get through the month and kind of, that I'm fine mentality, but that there's something more or that there's something greater. When I work with people and I reflect back to them what's going on. So I have systems and structures and, ways to do all of this. But when I start to feed that information back to somebody and let it just soak in, what ends up happening is it spawns you. It spurs you, I guess is what I mean. It spurs you to take action. So a lot of the times I say, okay, let's look at this. We've got a two-sided equation, right? You've got income coming in, you've got your expenses that you're paying. If you're not happy with what's left after that, you've got two ways to tackle it. You can decrease your expenses or you can increase your income, or you can kind of do the 1-2 punch and do both of them. So I think a lot of people think always about cutting back the expenses. A lot of entrepreneurs, of course, they look at increasing the income. But when you start to get this feedback and you start to get real-time information about the numbers, and the numbers are not lying to you, and it's you have the ability to get all of this information out of your head and actually in front of you, it causes you to take action. So whatever that action may be, that's where the result lies. So when I work with somebody who's they've dialed back their expenses to the point that there's really nothing left to squeeze out of that, and then we look at it and we see, okay, you're either still not making enough money or you simply want to be making more. What are you going to do about it? And when the numbers are looking back at you, it just triggers something inside of you to just get real and take action. Because I think sometimes we're so wrapped up in our heads and we think things are going one way, but without it right in front of your eyes with like tangible evidence of what's going on, it's so easy to prolong it and stick to that, oh, well, I'm fine. It's that I'm fine mentality that's actually really, really dangerous and one of the most expensive things out there, because you might be fine in the moment, but can you tell me that you're really going to be fine 5, 10, 20 years down the road? And if you don't know, let's answer that question.
Indeed. Now, I can hear someone saying many, many different things. And before we get to that, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
None of this really works without some level of accountability. So how does that happen?
That's that's it. That's the nail on the head right there. So that's what I provide. I provide an external accountability for my clients, and a place, like I said, kind of just a safe place for them to sort through the numbers, sort through the thoughts and feelings, sort through what's going on, have a place to really get it all out, dump your brain out, and just pick through all of it. And I'm going to hold you to it. If you tell me you want to make more money, we're going to create an action plan for that. If you tell me that you want to pay down your debt, we're going to create a debt repayment plan for that. You tell me what's meaningful and what's important to you, because I can't do that. It's different for everyone. In my opinion, quite frankly, it doesn't matter. I don't care how people spend their money, as long as they're spending it in a way that is meaningful and empowering to them. So I really seek to create that accountability and to be a partner, to really be a partner, because let's be honest, a lot of these conversations about money aren't happening. They're just not happening.
Oh, that's your house too. Okay, got it.
It's not, well, not anymore. No, I'm talking about it day and night. But yeah,
Well, I meant like when you were growing up, it's like it's not a conversation that mom or dad ever sat down and said, "Okay, so here we're going to talk about money tonight." You're
it wasn't tasteful. It wasn't done. I didn't know. I was in the business, but I didn't know what my parents made or what the business made. I mean, and that's fine. That's one thing. I was a kid. Maybe it wasn't necessarily something that needed to be fully disclosed in that capacity. Sure. But there's lots of things that could have been discussed. And I think it used to be, like money, religion, and politics. You just kind of didn't get into those. Well, come on, let's be honest. Politics and religion are on the table. So let's pull money out of the closet too at this point. So,
no doubt.
I mean, it doesn't do any good to just skirt around the issue. Money is a day-to-day factor in every single one of our lives. And the more we hide from it, the more we don't discuss it, the uglier and uglier it's allowed to get. So I pull it out. Let's talk about it. What's going on, and there's no judgment. Like I said, I mean, empathy is my superpower. I get it. I've been there. I've done it. Everything I teach, I've been through, some of it twice. So
I liked it so much.
No judgment.
Totally understood. Totally understood. Now, I know there's also another person who's listening, and this is what's going through their head. They're still listening and they're hanging on. But honestly, Morgan, they're saying to themselves, but I tried all this before and it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And I want something different, but I tried it all before. So what would you say to that person who's still looking for that solution, knows that they've got an issue, but they've tried it before?
Yeah. So I'd say don't give up. You haven't tried everything. Because I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm just not good with money. I'm just not good with money." Well, I mean, have you ever seen a 6-month-old who is just good with money? It's something that's learned. Right. And if it's not something that's ever really been actively discussed in your life, you got to start that conversation somewhere. And a lot of times I think doing it on your own, you've tried this, that, and everything else. But have you tried getting outside support and outside help and really just having a partner in it, like I said, because, this stuff is not really something that's taught in our schools. Maybe it gets touched on a little bit here and there, but I think by and large, the norm is that we still just don't talk about it. And that means, unless you really have the tenacity to go after it and figure it out and fail, but fail forward. Unless you have that natural inclination specifically around money, I can understand. And I know people get to the point where they just throw their hands up in the air. And I have folks who come to me with that very same mentality of, it's never going to be different. Because I have tried it all, but so-and-so said to call you, so here I am. Well, if you haven't gotten outside help, whether that would be with me or somebody else, and actually sought kind of some coaching and counseling around it, then you haven't necessarily tried everything. And I just say, don't give up. Don't give up. There's answers. It can be taught. It can be learned. It can be changed. You can have financial success. It's possible. And I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I've helped so many people get over that hump. And even though they can't necessarily see it in the beginning, they just know, hey, it's not working. I don't know what else to do. Help me. And they don't necessarily know what I know is on the other side of that hill. But I kind of stand out there and hold the light for them and allow them to kind of cross that bridge when they come to it. And we sort through it together. And, sometimes they slip back, they fall back down the hill a little bit, but ultimately they get to the peak and they look out there and they go, oh, okay, I get it. This is what's over there. This looks a lot better from here.
Got it. Totally understood. So give us, if you can, keeping things confidential that need to be confidential, give us a kind of a story summary of one such person who was just like you described and kind of how they met you and what has happened for them since.
Okay. So yeah, let's see. Let me pull out a favorite here. It's funny. I've had a couple of folks, a couple of nurses. Nurses, I have a soft spot in my heart.
Who also are empathetic. This is good.
Right? Probably some sort of connection there. I guarantee it. I have a soft spot in my heart for nurses because I have so much respect for anybody in that position, that field, because I just personally, I couldn't do it. So these are people who give and give and give. And so there's a lot of folks who fall into this category, whether it's, a service-oriented entrepreneur, a teacher, a public service agent, tons of people who fall into this category where they're so focused on taking care of those around them, whatever capacity that may be, even if this is just somebody who's got a family. So again, it's kind of the context rather than necessarily the individual. But I've got these folks who are so dedicated to taking care of their patients, taking care of their family, taking care to everyone around them, that there are a lot of things that naturally get neglected for them personally. And I have a few nurses, some other folks that I can think of, where the time we spend together it's their time. So they know that when they come to me, whether that's weekly or biweekly, whatever their schedule may be, it's different for everyone. They come to me during that time and they know that there's no other draw on their attention, and that they can come in and they can really just sit down and process what's going on in their financial lives and really take the time to get organized and just start to really understand what's going on. So I'm thinking of one particular case where I've got a woman who I've been working with for a while, a nurse, very, very successful, earns a great living, and her schedule was just so chaotic that she was always coming from a place where she was constantly reacting. She really never had the chance to slow down, get things in order, and then make proactive choices. So when I said more powerful choices, this is a good example of that.
Got it. So
in having this designated time with me and having somebody in her corner who's like, all right, let's look at it. What's going on? And allowing just a safe, neutral place for her to really just dump it all out and say, I don't know. And I'm embarrassed that I don't know. And my schedule's too chaotic for me to really come up with the brain power to figure it out. Her life is completely different now, simply for having this safe place to really just come in and be herself and learn and organize and start to take different actions and really have a moment to quiet down and reflect, and then take steps and make choices and take action. And she's gone through my program. I started at the ground and just worked all the way up on everything with her. We went through, tracking spending and putting together a monthly spending plan and a debt repayment plan and a savings plan. And she is just showing up so powerfully now. She just shows up as a different person. There's a different energy. There's a different confidence. Quite frankly, she's told me that, she's better in her job because of it, because now it's not just working paycheck to paycheck. She actually has something to show for it at the end of all of these crazy hours that she's pulling. She's got something to show for, and she doesn't have that same sort of fatigue because she's taking care of herself now. And we built things into her plan because, again, I'm not all about just cutting everything out. I'm about taking care of yourself so that you can propel forward to be the best version of yourself and create a more meaningful life. So in her particular case, she needed to carve out time to really take care of herself and schedule some downtime and get a massage and give herself a chance to regroup so that she could show up better for her patients, for her family, and for herself. Now she's on track. We're talking about significant debt, because again, the schedule was so crazy that everything was like, I'll just deal with whatever's in front of my face. And so sometimes there was money in the bank, but she didn't have time to sort out, and think about how things were going to get paid for. So down goes the credit card. Credit card. And it just got out from under her. She's an extremely intelligent woman, but it just got out from under her because she didn't have the time. So now, on track to be debt-free in the next 18 months. We've got a spending plan in place after that, where the 12 months following that, she should have about, 30 to 50,000 in the bank, depending. And she was barely keeping her head above water. And this wasn't that long ago, maybe 6 months ago.
Okay. And in this particular case, it wasn't even about earning more money.
No,
That's good.
She has not earned any more money. I think she got a little annual cost of living bump since we started working together. But no, she had more than enough right there. It was just going in 100 different directions. It was like trying to drink from the fire hose.
Yeah, I bet there's a number of people who come to you who are in that same position. In fact, I'm going to make an assumption that many of them are listening right now and probably resonating with the message going, you know what, Morgan, what's going to be the best way for them to track you down, find out more about what you got going on, or maybe even get you on the phone so that they can begin to get their money straight?
Yeah, well, it's easy. I've got a website. It's morgangaron.com. My last name is Garon. Pop over there. There's a little scheduler that you can click on to just book a free consultation. I'm in the business of just talking to people. I talk to people all day long. Give me a call. I'd be happy to see what's going on for you, what's working, what's not working. I always try to make my calls useful in the moment, give you some feedback on how I think I can help. And then, we talk about what it looks like from there. If it's something that I can't help with, if you're more looking for how to invest or something like that, or, how to get proper insurance, that's not my forte, but I've got plenty of people that I talk to. I've got an extensive network. So even if it's not something I can help you with, I've got somebody who probably can.
Absolutely awesome. So as we wind down here, I've got a final question for you because I'm kind of curious to hear what your answer would be. And let's pretend for a moment that someone listening, they think they want to start their own entrepreneurial journey. They're going, you know what, I'm done with this under earning. They're even standing in front of what I would call the superhero outfit store, ready to pick out their cape and tights. They're going to make this thing happen. However, at the same time they're making those decisions, they're dealing with, the voice. And that it's the voice that I know you've dealt with. It's in the back of your head. Every time we begin to go, hey, I'm going to go do something great. It's right there with us to remind us of who we're not and what we've never been. And for some people listening, they're actually related to that voice. So my question to you is as follows. Let's pretend that they're going to actually follow through on what you say. And they're going to do so in the next 24 to 48 hours. They're going to get that business started, make this thing happen. My question to you is, what would you have them do?
What would I have them do on their own entrepreneur journey?
Yep.
Okay. I would say make a choice. Make a choice and take action. I don't care if you're afraid. I don't care if you don't know. I don't care if that voice is thundering through your ears. Take a step, because you're not going to know. And you can sit there and try to plan it out and try to have all your ducks in a row and think, okay, I'll get it just so, and then I'll launch, or then I'll take the next step. And I'll tell you what, I don't care how prepared you think you are. There's going to be something that comes out of left field that you never considered. And trust me, I know my friends call me the queen of variables because I try to look at every possible angle. And there's going to be something you didn't even think of. So just allow yourself to not know. I mean, I think it goes back to the very first thing we were talking about is it's okay to not know. And it's something that you can figure out as you go. And you will mess up. Things will not go as planned. And it's hard. It's hard to not let that psych you out. But, you just got to roll with it. And it's funny. I love the superhero theme because there's actually a moment at the beginning of this year where I was waffling, right? Because it's a daily,
Yep.
It's a daily pep talk sometimes of like, okay, no, you're on the right track. And, you start out the morning and everything's just gravy and you're on it. And then, the day goes 17 different ways after that. So I was having this moment where I was really reflecting and kind of looking back at the year and kind of anticipating this upcoming year. And I was watching the Avengers. So
nice.
Spider-Man's on there, and there's this scene where he's talking to, I don't even know if I'm going to get it right. I think he's talking to Thor, I think. Okay. And so he says to him, when you can do the things that I can do, and then you don't do them, and bad things happen, it's kind of your fault. So I was sitting there and I just kind of was like, wait, what did he just say? Right. And I'm just trying to veg out. I don't want to think about work. I don't want to think about business. I'm just trying to watch a movie. And so here's this moment, right? Smacks me from right from the television. And I realized I have this ability to help people in a way that they really need help. Mm-hmm. And that really lit the fire for me to be like, okay, I don't know what it's always going to look like. I don't know how to get to the next level. Technology is a constant struggle for me. I'm no expert in that regard. But at the end of the day, I know that what I do matters, and it matters a lot for the people that I can connect with. So if you're out there and you're listening and you've got something that is yours and it's uniquely yours, because we've all got that one thing that's only ours. It can only be ours through our experiences and our upbringing and our beliefs and everything that comes together to make us who we are. We've got something that's only ours. And if you're out there and you've got something that you want to put out to the world, you're almost obligated to do it. Don't hold yourself back. Don't keep yourself small. Do us all a favor and take that next step, because you might have something that somebody else really, really, really needs. And it's not up to you to decide whether it's good enough or whether you're doing the right thing or not. Just put it out there, and somebody may hear it and somebody may need it. And you may be able to make a really big difference, whether that's through a product or a service or an organization, whatever that may be. Just take the chance. You never know where it's going to lead.
That is what we would call a mic drop moment. Totally love your answer right there. I appreciate all that you're doing, everything and everyone that you are out there helping. Hopefully they can, if they can't hear it in your voice, then they weren't listening. But I definitely appreciate you taking the time to share your knowledge, your insight, as well as your wisdom here with us today at the Cashflow Diary.
You are so welcome, Jay. It's absolutely been my pleasure. I wish we could keep talking for another hour, but maybe more to come. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you to everyone who's listening. I'd love to connect in any way that may be useful for anyone out there. So thanks so much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means MorganGaron.com. That means you now know that you have no excuse. What is that? Ignorance and fear. No excuse. Go out there, make something happen. But most importantly, if you know that, hey, she said something that resonated with me, well, then guess what? Do something about it right now. It's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.